There's a quiet lie sitting at the center of having a pension. It doesn't scream. It doesn't look dangerous. In fact, it often comes dressed as security, and that's exactly why so many people miss what it's quietly taking from them. One quick thing before we dive in. If you're not subscribed, hit that button now. I think you'll want to stick around for what comes next. The real question isn't whether your pension is good. It's whether you're using that pension to create the most secure income your life can support. I want you to picture your retirement in two piles, not one giant scary number, two piles. In the first pile is money that shows up no matter what. Your pension, your Social Security, maybe a little rental income. Money that comes in whether the market is calm or throwing a fit. In the second pile is everything you built and saved. Your 401k, your IRA, your brokerage account, your cash. Now here's the thing. Most people spend almost all their time staring at pile 2 while barely noticing pile 1. And yet pile 1 is often doing the real heavy lifting. That first pile is the invisible asset. It is the quiet strength in the room. It is the part of your plan that keeps working while you sleep, while headlines get louder, while markets bounce around, while fear creeps in and tries to convince you that you're not ready. Think of it like a house. The foundation sits underground. You don't show it off to the neighbors. You don't post pictures of it. You don't point at it with pride the way people point at a nice kitchen or a big living room. But if that foundation is strong, the whole house feels solid. Your income floor works the same way. Your pension and your Social Security are the foundation. Your savings are the furniture, useful, important, comfortable, but they sit on top of something else. Most people have been taught to obsess over the furniture, while ignoring whether the foundation is already stronger than they realized. And that quiet lie slowly raises the pressure. It makes good people feel late. It makes steady people feel reckless. It makes retirement feel like a finish line they're somehow still failing to reach. Here's a question. If you had to choose between more money or more certainty, which would it be? Keep that in your head as we go. Most people walk into retirement focused on account balances. They look at their 401k, their IRA, their savings, and they ask, is this enough? And if the number doesn't feel big enough, they feel behind. Even if they have something incredibly valuable sitting right in front of them, the goal of retirement is not wealth, it's income. Let that sink in. The goal is not to die with the biggest account. The goal is to wake up on a Tuesday, pour your coffee, pay your bills, go see your grandkids, fix the car, take the trip, handle the surprise medical expense, and not feel that silent pressure sitting on your chest. That's the goal. Income is what turns savings into a life. Income is what turns numbers on paper into groceries, electricity, gas, and peace. Here's the thing. Most people are being told they are behind when they're not. Let's meet two people. The first one, let's call him Frank. Frank is 67. He spent over 3 decades working a steady, dependable job. Nothing flashy, no big windfalls, just consistency. If you saw him walking down the street, you wouldn't think, there goes someone financially secure. You might actually think the opposite. Frank lives in a modest home. He drives an older car. And if you looked strictly at his savings, you'd probably panic for him, because Frank has around $140,000 saved. By the standards you've been taught, Frank is behind. But here's what you don't see when you only look at that number. Frank has a monthly pension. He has Social Security income. His home is fully paid off. Every single month, without touching his savings, money shows up, consistently, predictably. Frank is not struggling. Frank is not stressed. Frank is living a life that works. Now let's meet Gary. Gary did everything right, at least according to the rules he was given. He saved aggressively, he invested diligently, he followed the benchmarks. And today, Gary has $800,000 saved. On paper, Gary is a success story. But Gary doesn't feel like one. Gary still has a mortgage. Gary doesn't have a pension. Gary relies heavily on his investment account to fund his life. Every market fluctuation feels personal. Every ugly headline nudges his stress a little higher. Every big purchase feels like a decision that quietly chips away at his future. Gary has more money than Frank, but less peace. It's not about who has more saved. It's about who has more certainty. Now listen, this is where the title of this video starts to make sense. If you have a pension, you may be sitting on something worth far more than you think. Most people look at a pension and see a monthly check. That's understandable, but it's incomplete. That's like looking at a fruit tree and only noticing the apples on one branch. The real value is the whole tree. The roots, the trunk, the years of fruit still coming. If your pension sends you a dependable check for life, that income has a price tag, even if nobody ever handed you one. If you had to go out and buy that same guaranteed lifetime income with your own money, you could easily be looking at a value in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. For many households, that invisible asset can land around $300,000 or more, sometimes much more. And because nobody framed it that way for you, you may have spent years feeling small when you were actually standing on one of the strongest financial foundations available today. What do you think? Are most people actually behind on retirement, or are they just measuring it wrong? Imagine walking onto a car lot. Every vehicle has a sticker price. Big, official, intimidating. It looks final. It looks like the truth. But if you've ever bought a car, you already know the truth. Nobody treats the sticker like the whole story. There are discounts, trade-ins, timing, financing, negotiation, hidden value. The sticker exists to anchor your mind. It gets you to think in one direction before you ever ask the better question. Retirement benchmarks work the same way. You hear you need $1 million, or more than $1 million, or some giant round number that sounds serious enough to be true. And that number quietly erodes your confidence before you even sit down and look at your actual life. That giant number is your sticker price. It is not your personalized answer. It is a broad estimate thrown into the room as if everybody has the same expenses, the same health, the same housing costs, the same marriage, the same goals, the same life expectancy, the same appetite for risk. But you are not a generic benchmark. You are a real person with a real life. And this is where pensions change the conversation. A pension lowers the amount your savings need to do. That matters more than people realize. If your basic bills are largely covered by guaranteed income, then your savings are not carrying the whole load. They are helping, supporting, filling gaps, creating options. That is very different from asking your portfolio to be the entire engine. You may already have what people with millions are searching for, not the bragging rights, not the flashy number, the thing beneath it, stability, the permission to stop staring at the market every morning like it owes you peace. Think of your Social Security benefit like a faucet. Behind that faucet is a pipe, one you've been filling your entire working life. Every paycheck, every tax contribution, it all builds pressure in that pipe. The longer you wait to turn the faucet on, the stronger the flow becomes. Wait until 70, the flow is stronger. Turn it on at 62, the flow is lighter. But here's the part most people don't think about. That faucet belongs to you. You paid into it. And if you wait too long to turn it on, some of that water never reaches you. It just stays in the pipe, unused. Gone. So the question isn't what's the best age, it's what's the best decision for your life right now. If your health is shaky, if longevity in your family is uncertain, if you need the income earlier, if your pension already gives you a sturdy floor, taking benefits earlier can make sense. If you're healthy, if you want stronger survivor protection for a spouse, if delaying would meaningfully strengthen your lifetime plan, waiting may be the better move. The real answer lives in your life, not in somebody else's rule. Quick check. Do you know your full retirement age for Social Security? Most people don't. And while we're here, let's talk about a quiet misunderstanding that trips people up. Some folks think, I have a pension, so Social Security timing doesn't matter much. That can be a costly mistake. A pension gives you support, yes, but it can also buy you flexibility. It can give you room to delay Social Security if delaying improves the long-term picture. Or it can confirm that taking Social Security earlier is fine because your floor is already strong. The point is not to blindly delay. The point is to use one source of income to make the other source smarter. That's what planning is, not maximizing one number in isolation. Coordinating your income streams so they work together instead of quietly working against each other. Now think of inflation like a slow leak in a tire. You can still drive for a while, the car still moves. Nothing looks dramatic at first, but mile after mile, that leak changes the ride. It affects how the car handles. It wears things down. It turns a manageable trip into a stressful one if you ignore it long enough. Inflation is the silent eroder in retirement. It slowly raises the cost of groceries, repairs, insurance, travel, property taxes, prescriptions, and all those normal little things that make up a normal life. If your pension does not have a cost of living adjustment, that monthly check can feel wonderful on day one and a lot smaller years later. Even when it does have a COLA, those adjustments do not always keep pace with the way your real expenses move. Healthcare has a way of running ahead. Home repairs do not care what the official inflation number says. Real life has its own math. That's why a pension should never make you sleepy. It should make you thoughtful. It should make you grateful, yes, but also alert. Because a strong floor is not the same as a complete plan. It's realism. And in this case, realism isn't negative. It's empowering. You don't need to panic because you have a pension. You need to understand what it protects, what it doesn't, and where your savings still need to step in. Here's a question for the married folks. Have you and your spouse ever actually talked about what happens if one of you is gone? This is one of those conversations people quietly avoid because it feels uncomfortable. But avoiding it does not make it less important. Picture a table with 4 legs. When one leg disappears, the table does not just keep standing the same way. Everything shifts. That is what happens in many households when one spouse dies. One Social Security check often disappears. A pension may continue in full, continue in part, or shrink depending on the option you chose. Some bills drop, yes, but not all of them. Housing still costs money. Utilities still show up. Food doesn't get cut in half as neatly as people imagine. And grief itself makes every financial decision harder. This is where survivor choices matter. A larger single-life pension may look better on paper now, but a joint and survivor option can protect the person left behind. That lower monthly amount today may actually be buying future security for the one who stays. Again, the question isn't what looks biggest. It's what holds up when life gets real. And here's where pension value gets missed in another way. People will sometimes reject a survivor option because they don't want the smaller monthly check now. I understand that. Nobody likes giving something up. But if that decision leaves a spouse exposed later, you did not maximize income. You shifted risk, quietly, invisibly, steadily. The numbers may look cleaner today while the plan becomes more fragile tomorrow. That's why numbers matter. But how you feel about those numbers, that matters just as much. If one choice lets both of you sleep better, that has value too. Now picture retirement savings like a stack of bricks sitting outside during a storm. If the weather is calm, taking one brick at a time feels manageable. But if the storm hits early and you still have to keep removing bricks, the stack shrinks faster than you expected. That's sequence of returns risk. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple. Bad market years early in retirement can do more damage when you're withdrawing money at the same time. This is exactly why pensions matter so much. A pension means you don't have to pull as hard from your savings when the market is down. It gives your portfolio breathing room. It reduces the pressure to sell low. It keeps a bad season from turning into permanent damage. In other words, your pension is not just income. It is shock absorption. I want to know, have you ever felt like you were doing everything right but still felt behind? You are not alone. That feeling is everywhere. People open a statement, see a number that doesn't match the giant benchmark in their head, and their stomach drops. They don't factor in the pension. They don't fully value the Social Security stream. They don't count the paid-off house the right way. They don't notice that some of their biggest expenses are already under control. They just feel behind. That is the quiet fear that creeps in for so many good people. And the worst part is, it doesn't just hurt your mood, it changes your behavior. It makes you delay decisions that need attention. It makes you spend too little and save too hard when maybe the smarter move is to build a plan around the income you already have. It makes you feel guilty for enjoying the life you spent decades trying to build. Most people also underestimate expenses by a lot. Think of moving day. You pack the obvious stuff first: the couch, the dishes, the clothes. Then, on the last day, you start finding the little things in drawers, closets, the garage, the hall cabinet under the sink. Somehow the small stuff becomes half the move. Retirement spending works like that. People remember housing and food. They remember maybe healthcare and travel. But then life starts adding in gifts, home maintenance, helping adult kids, replacing appliances, dental work, car tires, pet care, rising insurance, hobbies, and the weird surprises that only seem to show up when your paycheck stops. If you underestimate those, even a good pension can feel tighter than expected. So yes, your income floor matters, but you still need an honest view of the life sitting on top of it. There's another mistake people make with pensions. They treat the pension like a reason not to look closely at the rest of the plan, almost like having one strong wall means you don't need to check the roof. But retirement does not work that way. Your pension may be solid. Great. Now ask the better questions. Does it cover your non-negotiables? What happens if inflation quietly chips away at it? What happens to your spouse? How much flexibility does it give your savings? How does it change your Social Security decision? These are the questions that move you from vague comfort to real clarity. Let me ask you something. Do you know what your monthly income will actually look like when you retire? Be honest with yourself. Not what you hope it will be, not what one online estimate suggested, not what some generic calculator implied, your actual monthly income. Because there is a big difference between having a pile of money and having a paycheck replacement system that works. People sometimes get so distracted by calculators that they forget calculators are just tools. Even the Social Security conversation has been full of confusion for years because people use rough estimates like final answers. They plug in one scenario, treat it like gospel, and quietly build a whole future around a number that was never meant to stand alone. Here's what you need to know. Estimates are useful, but they are not your plan. Your plan is the combination of your pension, your Social Security timing, your spouse's benefits, your expenses, your taxes, your health, your housing, and your tolerance for uncertainty. So when I say you could be losing $300,000 and not even know it, I don't mean there is a secret check with your name on it hiding in a drawer somewhere. I mean the true value of your pension may never have been translated into a language your brain can feel. You may have never been shown what it would cost to recreate that same monthly income from scratch. You may never have been told that a pension can reduce sequence risk, protect against panic, and change the amount you need in savings by hundreds of thousands of dollars. You may never have seen how one survivor decision, one claiming choice, or one inflation blind spot can quietly erode that value over time. That is the loss. Not just money on paper, clarity, confidence, decision quality, and those losses add up. Here's something to think about. If you found out today that you're actually on track, how would that change your week? For a lot of people, it would change everything. They would breathe differently. They would stop treating every expense like a personal failure. They would stop measuring themselves against neighbors with bigger houses and smaller certainty. They would stop assuming that a modest account balance means a weak retirement. You are not behind. In fact, you may already be standing on one of the strongest financial foundations available today. If you have a pension, especially a reliable one, you have something millions of people wish they had and cannot buy easily on their own. That doesn't mean stop planning. It means stop ignoring the value of what you already built. Take this home with you. Start by getting clear on your income floor. Write down what is coming in every month, no matter what. Your pension, your expected Social Security, any other steady income. Don't round it in your favor. Don't make it prettier than it is. Just make it real. Then look at your actual spending, not what you think you spend, what your real life cost you over the last year. Go line by line. Housing, food, insurance, healthcare, transportation, the fun stuff too, the gifts, the trips, the coffee stops, the small things that make life feel like life. After that, find the gap. If your floor covers most of your life, great. Then your savings are there to fill in the rest and provide breathing room. If the gap is larger than you expected, that's not bad news. That's useful news. That's the moment you can adjust before retirement, not after. And while you're doing that, run a few simple what-ifs. What changes if you take Social Security at 62? What changes at full retirement age? What changes at 70? What happens if one spouse is gone? What happens if your pension doesn't keep up with inflation? What happens if the market drops early and your savings need support? You don't need perfection to have a successful retirement. You need clarity. You need to stop measuring yourself against everyone else. Stop feeling behind and start focusing on what truly gives you freedom. Because freedom in retirement is not a giant number by itself. Freedom is knowing your bills are covered. Freedom is knowing one bad market year does not wreck your plan. Freedom is knowing your spouse is protected. Freedom is being able to spend on your real life without hearing that quiet lie in the back of your mind telling you it's never enough. You may already have what people with millions are searching for, not the appearance of wealth, the structure of security. And once you see that, you stop chasing other people's benchmark and start building around your own life. Retirement isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of something new. A new rhythm, a new pace, a new way of living. And the goal isn't just to survive it. The goal is to enjoy it, to wake up without financial stress, to make decisions without fear, to live with confidence, not hesitation. If the system only rewards you with almost enough, you will spend your entire life chasing more. But if you understand your numbers, if you build your income, if you define your life on your terms, you don't chase anymore. You decide. And that's the shift from fear to clarity, from chasing to choosing, from not enough to enough. If this video made you think differently about your retirement, subscribe. The next one goes even deeper.